Greetings, welcome. Welcome to Unity Church in St. Paul. My name is Shay McKay. I'm one of the ministers here at Unity, and those of you who are joining us online. We are here today to celebrate the life, the long, active, and beautiful life of a wonderful woman. And we are here to grieve our loss, to learn how to let go and adjust to a world in which Marion is no longer active and wonderful and part of our lives. One of the things that we do here in Unitarian Universalism, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is whenever we gather together as a community, when we come together, especially for sacred moments such as these, we begin our time together by lighting a chalice. And we do that for many reasons. One is we light a chalice to remind ourselves through the flame of the light of truth that lives within each of us, of which we are always searching and seeking. We also come together and light a flame to remind us of the warmth of community, of the power of being together with others and what that offers to our lives. And thirdly, we come together to remind ourselves, we light a chalice to remind us of the fire that lives within each of us, the fire of commitment, the fire of justice, the fire that we bring to our lives to change the world to be a better place. And so I light this chalice this morning for all of these reasons, and in memory and honor of Marion and her life and the light that she brought into the world. We notice often those people in our lives who seem to shine just a little brighter, who seem to light up the world just a little more. And it is powerful because that encourages us to live our lives in that way as well. I'm going to invite you now into our opening hymn. Please rise as you are willing and able. We will be singing Amazing Grace, which you can find in the hymnal number 205. You may be seated. One of the first things that Danny and Lisa told me when I started talking to them about the service today, and when I was asking about their mom, was that she was a Footian. And that means that she lived her life very much like one of the longtime Unity ministers, Arthur Foote. And Arthur Foote was here from 1945 until 1970. And he was the minister who married Marion and her husband back in 1948. And he was here for very much of her time here. And I believe they were close. And she lived her life very similarly according to a lot of his philosophies and theologies and beliefs. And so I wanted to share a few words from Arthur Foote to begin us today as we remember and celebrate Marion. Every day of my life I live beholden to others. I am beholden to those from whom from my cradle have befriended me, whose kindnesses have renewed my hope, whose encouragement has restored my faith, whose love has taught me the meaning of love and enabled me to be more loving. These have made the world seem a friendlier place and have given meaning to my days. We come together at times like this to be in community, to be with those who help give meaning to our lives, to be with those who offer comfort and who teach us how to live and love better. We come together in sorrow, in grief, and in joy to celebrate the life of a beautiful person. There's always a lot of emotions during a memorial service, during a celebration of life, and all of those emotions are normal and they're all okay. Everybody grieves in their own way. Everybody remembers and everybody lets go in their own way. Irish poet John O'Donohue has a quote. He says, "When you lose somebody you love, life becomes strange." Life becomes strange because there's an absence there that has never been there before. There's a lack of energy. There's a little less light in the world. There's just a hole, a space that used to be and no longer is. We grieve for two reasons, and they're paradoxical. One is we grieve because we loved. We grieve because we've lost somebody that we've loved, and we're trying to hang on, to remember. And the other reason we grieve is because that's the process that allows us to let go. It is the process that we go through so that we can move forward and move on. And as human beings, it is important that we come together into community at times like this. It is community that holds us, that comforts us, and that challenges us to let go and move forward. That life for us continues. We are not isolated. We are all connected. I think it was Lisa that said to me, we want to express an appreciation of the community that held and accompanied Marion through her life. An appreciation both in gratitude for all of you for being a part of the community of Marion, and also appreciation in the increasing of value. That as she lived, she gathered more and more people who loved her, who she loved. That as she lived, she gathered more and more into the community of support and celebration and challenge. And that ever-increasing community is here today to support the family as they remember and let go. And now I will invite that family up to speak their memories of their mother.
Hi there, I'm Dani. I'm Marion's youngest. So in thinking about this, I decided there's no one image that can fully recollect our amazing mother. So I'd like to share a series of moments with you. Moment. We are children. Summers are spent living at the cabin where we kids complain about being bored. Go outside and invite your soul, comes the response. I would groan, but how grateful I am now for this life guidance. Moment. Mom is cajoling us into doing something fun that we are resisting. Would you, won't you, did you, don't you? Oh, come on, you said you would. Ain't you gonna, don't you wanna, won't your mama let you, huh? Comes the refrain. Moment. I am in 1st or 2nd grade. We are at the school carnival. A man carrying a cup of coffee and I collide, and the hot liquid spills right into my eye. Mom springs into action and immediately flushes my eye with cold water in the drinking fountain. I am saved. Moment. Friday nights. Dad works late. Mom allows us to have popcorn and apples and cheese for dinner and to watch Star Trek and Wild Wild West on TV at the dinner table. Moment. Warm summer nights at the cabin. Bedtime. Mom is sitting in the wicker chair, reading Wind in the Willows, Hook the Hawk, or Pet of the Met, until we nod off to the sound of whippoorwills, owls, and crickets. Moment. Mom is being honored with the Fay Lixit Award from the League of Women Voters of St. Paul. She tells the group that when her mother reached the age of majority, women did not have the right to vote, and that when she, Marion, reached the age of majority, it was legal for an employer to specify whether he wanted a man or a woman for the job. Overcoming obstacles was my legacy. Moment. Maybe my favorite. I am in college. Mom and I have been to the Como Park Conservatory to breathe in a bit of greenery during a long winter. While there, we bought a few things at the gift shop. Arriving home, Mom discovers her wallet is missing, so she calls the conservatory. They tell her that yes, they have her wallet, her checkbook, and her worn pocket-sized copy of the US Constitution, which she used to say settled many arguments. Moment. Mom is regaling me with one of the many, many poems she had memorized. It's called First Lesson by Philip Booth. We'll see how we go. Lie back, daughter. Let your head be tipped back in the cup of my hand. Gently, and I will hold you. Spread your arms wide. Lie out on the stream and look high at the gulls. A dead man's float is face down. You will dive and swim soon enough where this tide water ebbs to the sea. Daughter, believe me, when you tire in the long thrash to your island, lie up and survive. As you float now where I held you and let go, remember when fear cramps your heart what I told you. Lie gently and wide to the light year stars. Lie back and the sea will hold you. Moment. I am visiting Mom for lunch, and we've had a fruitful conversation about current events, family happenings, and probably books. It's time to leave, and Mom hugs me, calls me Dee Dee Bug, walks me to the door, and out onto the sidewalk and stands there with a smile on her face and a big wave of the hand until I am out of sight, which I'm sure she did for many of you.
Hello, this is my first eulogy, so bear with me. I'm John, Marion's son, the middle child, and I got to know my mom quite well. For the last 30 years of her life, I lived a mile away, about a 5-minute drive, so I got to see her many times and really became quite a good friend. And if we had done this 2.5 years ago, I would have said, and probably still say, that with all the different things she did, who knows where you might have known her from. She was maybe a different Marion to different people, but in all of that, she was your friend and she was your ally, and that was a very common trait of hers. She was a good friend to have. And she was a friend in many ways. She was a friend to Native people when she worked on the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Indian Affairs Commission early in her life. She was a friend to women through work she did with the YWCA. She was a friend to the environment. She worked on the Pollution Control Agency for about 9 years and did a lot of groundbreaking legislation, got things done, reserve mining, dumping into Lake Superior. She was on the board when they got that stopped. She was a friend to wildlife. One time when we were at our cabin, there was a kingfisher bird, got caught on fishing line, was hanging from a limb, hanging over the river, and she was bound and determined to save this bird, which she started by shooting a .22 caliber rifle at the fishing line from across the river. And when that didn't, she was also quite a marksman from being in the Army, but when that didn't work, she went to the other side of the river, crawled out on that limb, and cut the line with the scissors, and the bird flew away and was saved. She was also a friend to voters through her work with League of Women Voters for many years. She was a friend to the arts through being in the university theater and doing a series of plays when she was in her 20s and 30s. Even did some plays after some of the kids were born. She was a friend to the listener through work she did at KUM Radio. Did put women on the air when that wasn't a common thing. People said, who would want to hear a high voice on the radio? And she said, why don't we give it a try? And the resulting postcards, letters, and calls they got supporting that proved her right on that. And she was a friend to her church through work she did at Unity. She served on the board, was active in the church. Then she was also a friend to her country. She served in World War II in the I guess it was the Women's Army Corps. She was a code breaker working in Washington, D.C. from 44 to 46. So she did that quite well. And through all of that, all of these activities she did that didn't even know about really growing up, she was also just a normal mom, which is, you would not have known how involved she was because she did the cooking, she did the cleaning, the caring, the consoling. She was really quite a normal mom. But then there were things that made you realize other things were going on. She would sit at the dining room table with a sewing machine, mending clothes, But the next day, she would set up a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and she would be hand-editing audio tapes for a program called Dr. Tell Me that she did on the radio. And by the way, those people she interviewed heard those edited interviews and thought they were quite the professional broadcasters on the air if they had only known the coughs and stammers that had been edited from those tapes and ended up on the floor of the dining room. And she had a wonderful broadcast voice, majored in speech therapy at the U, and she could, as Danny mentioned, reading those bedtime stories at the cabin was read in a wonderful professional broadcast voice. But she could also scold you in that same voice when she was mad and could enunciate you right out of the room. She also received many different awards, which she did display in her study, but the fact that she received the awards really was not the point of the work that she did. But she did, to list some of those things, she was appointed to various activities by Governors Rolvag, Elmer Anderson, Wendell Anderson, Rudy Perpich, and Al Quee. So throughout many, many years. And some of those awards that she did receive, she got an award from the Military Intelligence Division of the War Department in 1946 for her work during World War II. She was in the National Honor Society in high school. She received the Hope Washburn Award from the League of Women Voters in 1969 and an Environmental Quality Award from the EPA of Minnesota in 1975. From the YWCA, she received the Women's Center of the YWCA Achievement Award in 1980 and an award from the College of St. Catherine in 1981, just for general service to the community. And that same year from the state of Minnesota for her work in the Pollution Control Agency. Then in 2001, she got a nice letter from the Embroiderers Guild of America for doing a project on lace ribbons, where they said in these awards or in these acknowledgments, we have to nitpick your work, but all they could think of to say, and I quote, "This is too well stitched." Is there such a thing? So I guess faulting for her perfection on that. Then, as Deanie mentioned, she received the Fay Lixit Award in 2002 from the League of Women Voters. And then finally, she was inducted into the Minnesota Broadcasting Hall of Fame in 2008 for some of the work that she did, especially for women in broadcasting and giving opportunity to women and minorities and furthering and also the programming. And having her as a friend was really a big part of my life. It was challenging at times, but it was mutually beneficial, and I'm glad I was able to do that. Thanks.
So I'm Lisa, the one who needs glasses, so you might guess I'm the oldest child. And thank you, John, for giving me a perfect setup for what I'm going to talk about, because I wanted just to start by saying it wasn't always easy to be my mother's child. She was incredibly loving, but she could also be fearsome and awesome, sometimes almost too much for a child to take in. She was also warm and passionate and incredibly patient. And I think as I grew older, I came to truly appreciate her complexity, her wisdom, and her passion for just being, the just being part of life. In fact, one of the things she said a friend of hers had told her was, after all, we are human beings. We're not human doings. So I've intentionally shaped my thoughts for today around this word appreciate, which Shay mentioned, right? It's an opportunity to remember and say thank you, but also I think to increase in value by sharing. And it's one of the things we've really gained so much from the whole process of putting together remembrances and things, is just being reminded of these amazing things that were our mother. So these are my words of appreciation for Mom. Thank you, Mom, for the example you set, for what you taught me about life, for the person I am and the one I will become. You inspired me in so many ways, and one way, maybe the first way that comes to mind, is you inspired me to be strong. You inspired me to be strong physically, this I can do it myself, even when I didn't know how. She told me there was one day we were late to some relative's house for dinner because I insisted on tying my own shoes. The only thing was I didn't know how. And it was really never going to get anywhere, she felt. I don't know how she resolved that, but knowing our mother, I'm sure she found a way. She also believed in simple machines. She talked a lot about simple machines and how if you needed to get the lawnmower into the back of your station wagon, all you needed was a simple machine like a ramp. And I thought, my goodness, I wouldn't have guessed all you needed was a simple machine, but I think we have a remembrance that talks about her taking that same lawnmower, and she managed to mow down the grass on a small island off just in the middle of the river where our cabin was. And there's no path, no bridge. I think, Diana, you mentioned this. This was very sweet. She said, Marion, how did you possibly mow all that grass? Well, it was easy. You just put the mower on an inner tube, and you float it over there, and then you mow. So my work colleagues in Singapore are quite surprised at the physical things I feel I can do, right? I figure out how to do. I need suddenly to rearrange all the furniture in a meeting room by myself, or I have to fix a drain. I think, you just take a few minutes, assess the situation, and figure out an answer. And they say, how is this possible? And I say, well, you never knew Marion. If you knew Marion, you'd know there was always an answer. She inspired me to be strong intellectually as well, to stand up for myself, especially as a woman making her way in a man's business world, to stand up for my beliefs, to fight the tough battles, both for myself and for others, and to never give up in the face of adversity. One little quote we found that had been on her refrigerator is one that really reminds me so much of her in this way. A ship is safe in a harbor, but that is not what a ship is for. And it really is, that to me is really, she encouraged us to go out and be tough. Trust my head, trust my heart. I feel like our mother practically invented, you've got this. And that was kind of her mantra in life. She taught us to be emotionally strong as well. We had to keep our cool in an emergency. We had practices of fire drills as children. The highlight for me is in our cabin being allowed to climb down a rope ladder from the second floor out the window so that I would know how to do that and lead my brother and sister if it were necessary in a fire. We also did much disaster training around tornadoes, which I think that and other weather events would be a favorite topic of our mother's. She taught us not to be afraid of our emotions, let ourselves, laugh, learn, and love. Besides strength, she inspired me to be brave. She inspired me to tackle any subject, right? Whether it was, I want to be an actuary, I want to change and become an advertising person, I think I'm going to start my own business, I want to rejoin the corporate world. No matter what it was, her answer was always the same. You're amazing, Lisa, you can do this. She led me to explore the world. She opened those doors for me as well. She always said, as a parent, her role was to, you take care of your children for 18 years, even if the children thought it should be 16 or 15, she was still taking care of you for 18 years, and then she said she needed to let you go. And all I could think is, she's so much more than let me go. She really helped me fly. And I flew quite far in the end. When I went to Hong Kong, it was really hard. I thought I would go for 2 years. Actually, I thought I went for 2 months to begin with, and then that became 2 years, and now it's like 32 years, so apparently I can't count. But she, as I said, she really encouraged us to be brave about trying new things. And sometimes I think we were a little bit too brave. I remember my telling her how I had learned to skydive. And I think she's not that fond of airplanes in the first place. So skydiving was kind of one step way too far, voluntarily leaving the plane. She also wasn't very happy about some of the scuba diving I did, right? When I would, especially cave diving, I think that was a topic I only brought up once. Danny and I were traveling in Italy together, and we suffered from having 2/3 of her children in one car. And you can imagine we had some disaster discussions on that topic a few times as well. And Danny and I came up with every now and then we'd say, okay, we're going to do this, but don't tell Mom. And I was at least 40, so, it's not like this didn't live with us for our whole lives. In fact, we still say it. I mean, our mother is still very much there. I think just on this visit, once or twice, I said, but don't tell Mom. She inspired me to be curious, always interested in exploring many worlds. Danny's already talked a bit about literature, arts, theater. She and I took a class on mothers and daughters in literature. We were the only mother and daughter there. And I must say, between us, I think we kind of took over the class. I felt kind of bad for the instructor who had never really expected to have a radio personality, a master interviewer, and her daughter in the same class. Suddenly, I found I was telling all kinds of secrets that I had never really planned on. But we both benefited a lot from that journey. We went to Cornwall to visit the relatives' graves, and it was something I hadn't realized at the time when I suggested that we go, that it was a much more special experience maybe than I had expected, because going and retracing family history is very hard to do with a friend. I mean, it isn't just everybody that would want to travel with you. And I must say, we visited these elderly aunts and had tea and followed in the footsteps of both her sister and brother who had gone before us. And so I learned a lot about the family, but also we talked a lot about the landscape, and we had a hilarious time trying to pronounce properly all the British names, like Worcestershire sauce, we call it. In fact, we think we're very proud when, instead of calling it Worcestershire sauce, but in the UK they call it Worcester sauce, just in case you think we've shortened it, they're a step ahead. So we laughed a lot about things like that. She was the first family member to visit me in Asia. I guess I should have known that as soon as I got on the plane, she wouldn't be too far after. She came to Hong Kong with a group, and the group was actually there to visit refugee camps. So I knew when they were arriving, I went to surprise her at the airport. And she looked at me and she said, "Hi, Lisa, this is a surprise. See you Friday." And she got on the bus and went off with her group. And they went off and visited the refugee camps, which really mattered to her. And, she had plenty of time to spend with me, another 2 weeks, but, it was not going to start sooner than that. And she was hungry, I said she was curious. She was hungry to learn more about the refugees, especially those from Vietnam and Laos, because they had visited the camps that they were in. But she was also interested, obviously, in politics, right? So the handover of Hong Kong to China, and I was in Hong Kong at the time. When I moved to Singapore, she became very interested in Lee Kuan Yew, and very interestingly, she read his first 2 books, each of which is 800 pages. So she invested a lot in, and actually she subscribed to the Straits Times, the Singapore Straits Times, for several years, just to understand this new place that I was living. I think when I think of my mom, most importantly, she inspired me to be caring. And, she taught us that we must be kind. We must be kind to everyone, weaker or stronger, same or different. She was endlessly patient in listening. It's interesting, I always thought as a radio personality, right, she'd be good at talking, which she was, but she was also exceptional at listening. I found if I had been to the dentist especially, and there had been some horrible thing happen there, she would listen to every gory detail and never tell me to hurry up the story. She also had a strong sense of justice, what was right and wrong, a really deep-seated sense of that. She said, it's never an excuse if you know something's wrong. Right? It's not that it's legal, that doesn't matter. If you know it's wrong, it's still wrong. And she felt the love of truth was really often her guiding light. And finally, I think she saw caring as taking responsibility, ownership of problems. If something needs doing, then you should step up. You should be brave, be strong, act, volunteer, rather than just talk. I always think of her when I hear the Nike tagline, just do it. It's very much my mom. If it was there, if it needed doing, you should step up and do it. So thank you, Mom, for your ever-present inspiration to become a better me, one who every day strives to be stronger, braver, more curious, and more caring than I was yesterday. And I'd like just John and Dane to come up and join me for a second. And I'd just like to end by saying that on behalf of the three of us, I want to say to our mother, Mom, we all know you love us. We all love you. And most importantly, we all love each other and we're friends. So please, Mom, rest in peace. Go this way.
There's a prayer by Arthur Foote that goes like this. O my soul, shall I not give thanks for the richness of life and the goodness of being? Shall I not accept the days of my years with gladness and endeavor to give back in return into the lives of others what is in my power to give? Through kindness and cheerfulness, thoughtfulness and honesty, loyalty, bravery, and honor. We've had wonderful memories shared here by Dani, Lisa, and John. Accomplishments of Marion's life, giving us insight into who she was and all that she did. And I know that all of you hold memories as well. And so we're going to invite you to take a moment to come forward you'll be able to light a candle in honor, in celebration, in memory of Marion, of your memories of her. And in the quiet of your own heart, in the quiet of your own mind, say your goodbye. Express your gratitude and let her go. So I will invite you, we'll have some quiet music playing from Kathleen. I'm going to have the family come first, and then I'll invite all of you to come up through the center aisle here. You'll grab a candle, and then you can take a moment to come up and light your candle and have your memory. And just share it within your own heart, in your own mind, and say thank you and let Marion go. And then when you're finished here, if you could go back around the outsides so we don't get a traffic jam. So I'm going to invite the family first to come on up. We'll light this first candle from the chalice that we lit in honor of the light of Marion. And then come on forward. This is the light of Marion's life. This is the light of a special woman who lived 96 years, 97, 9, on this earth, in this community, bringing light in so many different ways throughout her activities and her passions and her love and her patience. And this is how we remember her. And this is how we continue to honor her, through our memories, through taking the light that she brought into our lives and spreading it out in our world, along with worn copies of the U.S. Constitution and all of the little and large things that made Marion who she was and that we hold dear. So this is our honor, our celebration, and our memory of her and our letting go. There is, when we lose somebody we love, something strange about life. There becomes an absence, a space, an emptiness that was not there before. But we come together to celebrate, to remember, to honor, and to carry on the legacy of Marion, of her amazing life. There are some more words from Arthur Foote that I think probably guided Marion quite a bit in her life. Another prayer. It said, "Let me be open-eyed and observant of the perpetual miracle of life. Let me be open-eared and tuned to all the various music of the world. Let me be open-minded, receptive to unfamiliar thoughts and strange viewpoints and new ideas. Let me be open-handed, ready to share the earth's bounty and my own. And let my open mouth utter words of courage, of cheer, of sympathy and hope." She embraced life fully, and she shared that with so many people. Her sense of justice, her passion, her strength, her patience, and her love. And she felt strongly that was something that we all should share together. The sense of community, the idea of building a world for all of us to thrive in, and of protecting that world. And so our closing hymn today is called Blue Boat Home. And if you don't know, it's a beautiful folk song written by Peter Mayer, who is a local singer-songwriter. And it's been made into one of our standard UU hymns. And it is about being together on this place we call Earth, this place we call home, and traveling together as companions throughout our lives. So I invite you to stand as you are able and willing. This book is in the teal hymnal. The hymn is in the teal hymnal, number 1064. And I invite you. You may be seated. As we close this service, this time of celebration and letting go, I extinguish our chalice. And I extinguish it in honor of this community, of these gathered friends and family who have absorbed so much light from Marion over her almost 100 years. And my hope in extinguishing this chalice is that we don't extinguish that light, but instead you take it out and continue to reflect it into the world, into the lives of people you encounter each and every day. And with that, Marion continues to live on in us and in that light. I'll say the benediction, and I will then lead the family out through the sanctuary. We'll have a final song from Kathleen, and then I'll invite you to leave through the back door. The family will be out there ready to receive you as you come out, and then into the parish hall where there are pictures and a slideshow and some lemonade and water and sweets. So we can continue our celebration and our honoring of Marion there. These again are words by Arthur Foote. May peace dwell in our hearts and understanding in our minds. May courage steel our wills and love of truth forever guide us. May it be so, and amen.